So thematic development, motivic development, and theme and variation, all those things are sort of like saying the same thing, right? And prerequisite for any kind of thematic development is repetition, right? So it's the repetition that makes something noticeable as a theme that's being uh, manipulated in some way, right? So that's the thematic development. That's the development component of it. So without repetition, you don't know what you're dealing with. You know, it's like playing one idea and then your solo's over. You know, so if you play that one idea and then you do, so I have listed here a few possibilities. There are others: augmentation, diminution, sequencing, inversion, displacement, fragmentation, and dual voice. Something I call dual voice. Something that's been done for. I mean, it's a cliche in operas. It's a cliche, right? So you have the soprano voice that is very frantic and anxious, very notey, higher in the range since it's soprano. Then you have the baritone that's very pensive and saying very. It's very assertive, but as a matter of fact, right? And much less notey, much more longer notes, focusing on almost like a bigger and a broader sound, right? So you have all that happening, and it's put against the soprano, right? And so the male characters saying "It's okay," and then but it's not. So everything's gonna fall apart. But if I tell so you have that sort of thing going on, and so I was thinking about in particular that as we were playing. So so part of this, as far as like developing the ability to do that, a few ways that you can practice that is you can walk a bass line for a couple measures, and then improvise for a couple measures, then walk a bass line for a couple measures, like that. Obviously, you're keeping the continuity of the form, right? I'm not saying to do that over the same two measures. I'm saying the form continues to develop the so that and then once you're able to do that, you can then purposely improvise lower on the instrument with quarter note, half note values, focusing more on chord tones, focusing more on arpeggio, like the arpeggio notes, thirds and sevenths, voice leading between thirds and sevenths. You can focus more on that sort of fundamental stuff, and then put that against improvising. You're playing eighth notes and 16th notes. You're playing all of the notes in the chord scale, chromaticism, all of that kind of stuff, right? So you can you kind of section yourself off so that you have different things that you're focusing on, and then it will ultimately it's going to sound like two people, because there's a and then the trick is to try to still have a continuity between the low voice and the low voice, although it's being separated by the higher voice, and the high voice and the high voice, though it's being separated by the low voice, right? So this sort of this frantic business that's going on up here, it ideally will still connect, you know, almost as if you were pausing as a, you know, not as a means to accommodate the other, but rather just pausing the idea with the idea that you're going to resume that same sort of idea. Okay? Now, probably where I started thinking about this is Dr. Billy Taylor. I don't know if you know who that is. But Dr. Billy Taylor, great jazz educator and pedagogue, you know, played with everybody. He's been passed away for several years now. I can't remember exactly when we met, but he actually interviews me on CBS Sunday Morning. And even after that, we stayed in touch, and he had me as his guest soloist, you know, when at a couple large concert venues and things, with his trio. And he came to my house as part of the recording session for the CBS Sunday Morning, and I have some footage of him playing on one of my keyboards at the house. But one of the things that he was known for was he would improvise with his left hand and then with his right hand, right? And he's doing this dual voice thing, right? So it's like two people, and he would have these different characters that were going on, and it was pretty remarkable how he was able to maintain the integrity between, you know, the continuity between the you know, the characters, you know, and the contrast of the other, as it also maintains continuity.